Yes!
Hey everyone, and welcome back to another brand new episode of The Completionist. EVO is here. That's right, we are almost just a week away from EVO 2016, the annual fighting game championship that happens in Las Vegas. And this year, I'm competing Smash 4, Street Fighter 5, and Tekken 7. Now, I have looked a little bit more recently at Smash, obviously, and Street Fighter, so I thought, you know what? Let's take another look at the franchise known as Tekken. When Tekken first dropped into arcades back in 1994, it changed the face of fighting games forever, probably by repeatedly punching that face. Everybody seemed to love Tekken, which helped to firmly solidify 3D fighting as the future of the genre. Both the arcade and console versions performed so well that Namco would have been dumber than a box of bricks to not immediately follow up with a sequel. Thankfully, by the time the original Tekken was ported to PlayStation, Tekken 2 was already in arcades. Good job, Namco! You did good. Get an A+ by me, buddy. But only an A+. Just about every aspect of the original game was beefed up in the sequel. The fighting system was further refined, the visuals were far prettier, and there were lots of extra modes included in the game for players to enjoy. And based on the reception that Street Fighter V has had with casual audiences, people love some extra modes. Calm down, y'all. Arcade mode is coming. Probably. 2017. I don't know, soon. Tekken 2 took arcades by storm upon its release, making it the #1 arcade game in America for 24 straight weeks. Think about that for a second. This was at the height of fighting games' popularity in arcades, with killers like Street Fighter Alpha and Ultimate Mortal Kombat 3 out there. The fact that Tekken 2 was on top for that long in that environment is freaking impressive. Tekken 2 hit the PlayStation the very next year, becoming an instant favorite of countless little ones who needed a healthy outlet for their violent urges. And just like its big brother, Tekken 2 received rave reviews from critics, even earning a few Game of the Year awards. Its success proved that Namco could hang with the big dogs of the fighting game world, and that Tekken wasn't just a fluke. It had the right to be here. It wasn't just a mistake. One step at a time, one punch at a time, one round at a time. Sorry guys, just go see Creed. It's such a great film, and it'll get you hyped for anything. In the last installment of the Tekken story, retired CIA agent Brian Mills successfully rescued his daughter from the clutches of some extremely dangerous kidnappers. But now, the father of one of those kidnappers, who was murdered by Agent Mills, is plotting his revenge, and he'll get it by any means necessary.
God damn it, Gerard!
What?
That's Taken 2!
I know!
No, that's Taken 2 by 20th Century Fox!
Fox is making a Tekken 2 movie?
Alright, just listen, come here.
2 hours later.
Okay, I think I got it now. Check it. Okay, Tekken's story left off with Kazuya Mishima earning the right to face his father, Heihachi Mishima, in the final match of the King of the Iron Fist tournament. After a long and grueling battle, Kazuya was victorious, and then he dropped dear old dad off the same old cliff he himself was thrown off when he was a kid. You know, I'm being reminded about how screwed up this family actually was. 2 years later, Kazuya has taken over as the supreme leader of the Mishima Zaibatsu, and has somehow made it even more powerful and corrupt than ever before. Kazuya seems to have fallen in his father's footsteps in regarding to smuggling, kidnapping, and generally being a dick, which may or may not be due to the influence of the devil gene that's slowly corrupting him from within. After learning that his father has unsurprisingly survived his Wile E. Coyote trip over the mountainside, Kazuya organizes a second tournament, with the prize pot being worth 1,000 times more than the first one, in an attempt to draw his father out of hiding. And of course, tons of fighters from the previous game are interested in the new tournament as well. Paul is back in order to have a rematch with Kazuya after he lost to him in the previous tournament. Michelle re-enters to rescue her kidnapped mother, who is taken by Kazuya's men. Law is looking to avenge some of his students who had their butts whooped by a mysterious Taekwondo fighter. King, who slipped into depression after having one of his precious orphans die on him, is pep-talked back into fighting by his good friend Armor King. Do it for the kids, Jaguar Godman! Nina is looking to settle things once and for all with her sister Anna. Jack 2, an upgrade to the first Jack android, wants to become a real human, so he's entering to save the life of his creator. And Yoshimitsu is attempting to rescue his good friend, Dr. Boskanovich, from Kazuya. Man, there is a lot of kidnapping in this game. Are you sure, Brett, that this isn't Taken?
Yes! It's not Taken!
All right. I get it. It's totally Taken, you guys. But hey, we have a couple of new characters in the roster too. There's Lei Wulong, a former Hong Kong detective who now works for Kazuya after having lost his memory in a plane crash, aka Jackie Chan. That dude is Jackie Chan. And then there's Jun Kazuma, a wildlife protection agent who struggles with choosing between her duties to arrest Kazuya and her desires to help him free himself from the evil devil gene. Well, we can't forget about good old Heihachi, who's been healing, training, and preparing to enter the new tournament in order to reclaim his former glory and give his good-for-nothing son the spanking he deserves, probably by throwing him off of something very high up. Again, the premise of this game is just as thin and unnecessary as the first games, and I'm still just okay with that. The real narrative draw of this game and most fighting games are in the characters themselves. Case in point, it's pretty cool to see Kazuya and Heihachi switch roles between Tekken and Tekken 2. It's pretty cool to be able to play as the former game's main villain and have the former protagonist become the antagonist. But after playing as both of them, it's pretty clear by now that they're both pretty huge jerks. This whole damn family is just messed up. Where's Kazuya's mother in all this? Why didn't she stop all the conflict from happening? She's gotta be more gentle than these murderous assholes. Oh, she's a fighter too, and she uses a tiger. Oh, that explains everything and nothing at the same time. Upon first glance, it may seem like nothing has changed between Tekken and Tekken 2, but if you look closer, it's clear that the sequel has a few subtle tweaks and additions that make the game feel a lot more smoother while still holding on to the stuff that everybody loved about the first game. First off, the characters look a lot less blocky. Now, don't get me wrong, Tekken 2 is still very much a PlayStation-era 3D fighter, which means that there's still plenty of block people to be had. Ugh, block people. But in Tekken 2, the characters look and animate a lot more smoothly, which makes sense when you consider that the developers constructed them of roughly 800 polygons each. And hey, the CGI cutscenes feel slightly less like codeine-fueled fever dreams. Slightly, so that's something. Each fighter still conveys a ton about their individual background and fighting style with just their appearance. Since this game introduces a few new characters and makes some pretty big changes to some of the old ones, their uniqueness is pretty important. Just look at Kazuya. He started at the bottom and now he's here, in a badass purple suit. Each stage is still composed of a static background image and an infinite playing field, but they also still offer lots of variety in fighting locations. You've still got recognizable locations from all over the world as your arenas, such as Hong Kong, New York City, and spooky-ass Japanese forests, but the name of your location is no longer displayed in the bottom right hand of the screen where you fight. What gives, Tekken 2? Maybe the game is trying to tell me that I'm a big boy and I don't need subtitles to tell me where I am. The music in Tekken 2 is still that same style of synthesized greatness that was everywhere in the mid-90s. Please come back, Japanese jazz fusion. A lot of different musical styles are represented, with each track further characterizing the fighter and stage it belongs to. For example, Jun's theme is serene and unarguably Japanese, whereas King's music somehow sounds determined, primal, and church-like all at the same time. To be honest, this is an aspect of fighting games that seems to have all but disappeared, and that I really miss. Sure, some fighting games today still have characters with individual stages and themes, but not many. These small details really help define the playable characters in a genre that didn't leave them that much room for definition. Needless to say, it's truly refreshing to revisit the feature in Tekken 2. It's clear that the guys over at Namco were finding their fighting footing with Tekken 2. The game's presentation maintains the same mission statement as the first game: help deliver the player to the gameplay as simply and as efficiently as possible. After all, the first game was so popular it would have been a mistake on Namco's part to change too much of the sequel. But thankfully, the little details that made the first game great are present in Tekken 2, only a more sexy, well-tailored purple package. While the presentational innovations of Tekken 2 may have been a bit subtle, The changes to the gameplay are definitely much clearer and take the franchise to a whole other level. Tekken's patented 4 limbs 4 button system and the characters' notoriously long move lists both make their return, but the new additions help to make the game even deeper than the original. Each character still has access to their basic attacks and combos, but you also have got some new tech at your disposal, such as back throws. If you manage to get behind your opponent and throw them, you'll perform a special inescapable throw that deals massive damage. Also new to the series are reversals, which allow you to turn your opponent's attacks against them when timed correctly. And Tekken 2 finally takes full advantage of the series' 3D technology by allowing players to perform a sidestep into the foreground or background to avoid attacks or reposition themselves. These new techniques make the gameplay richer and more diverse, but thanks to Tekken's great design, they're not unbeatable. Just like always, anything can be countered with the right know-how, including the new stuff. The roster in Tekken 2 has been expanded and refined, which means that many returning characters play very differently than they used to, and that there are even more unique methods of fighting to choose from. For example, newcomer Lei requires players to utilize a high-risk, high-reward strategy in order to win. You've got to have good knowledge of his stances and maintain offensive momentum with him if you're gonna bop your friends. You must earn your victory with the Super Cop. He does not want trouble, he just wants to catch a bullet. Playing as June will require players to have a good handle on Tekken 2's new reversal system in order to compensate for the slow startup of many of her moves. But just look at that spin! It's gorgeous! Like a poem. June flows with such grace. Perhaps I too can spin fight. Rotation is life. Tekken 2 retains the many modes of the original, including arcade mode, which still lets you fight against a set number of computer-controlled opponents before battling a boss. Training mode is still around to let you brush up on your skills. And of course, there's versus mode, where you and your friends can let the saltier of fun flow like water. But Tekken 2 has some brand new modes too. For those of you who just can't get enough of fighting against the computer, there's survival mode, which allows you to literally play until you die. No, seriously, check this guy out right here. This guy racked up to more than 20,000 wins in Tekken 2 survival mode. That's insane! For you speedrunners out there, there's time attack mode, which is basically arcade mode, but with settings that you can't alter and a focus on beating it as quickly as possible. But then there's team battle mode, which allows you to construct a team of up to 8 characters and go to war against another team, whether they be controlled by a buddy or by the CPU. When one of your characters goes down, they're replaced by the next one in line, and the last player with the character remaining wins it all. Once again, it's a good thing that not much has changed between Tekken and Tekken 2. The original's gameplay was rock solid and addictive, and the sequel is just as deep and fun as ever. The few careful system-wide augmentations that were made to the original formula are undoubtedly what made Tekken 2 the favorite that it was, and what makes it so damn fun to play even till today.
You win.
Last time around, if you wanted to face the boss of Tekken's arcade mode, you had to fight your way through 8 grueling stages before earning the right to battle against the final boss, Heihachi. This time around, things are a little bit different. In order to reach the final boss of Tekken 2, you're gonna have to fight even harder. This time, you'll have to fight through 9 stages before you get to the boss. That's right, you want the bigger prize pot? You better work for your meal! Just like in the first game, your first 7 fights are against randomly selected opponents, and your 8th battle is against your character's unique sub-boss. But once you make it past all of them, you'll be up against the organizer of the tournament himself, Kazuya Mishima. Kazuya retains his defensive fighting style from the previous game, but his ability to punish players' mistakes has been kicked into overdrive. If you overcommit in your offense or you use an unsafe move to try and open him up, he's going to rip you apart worse than the critics ripped apart that Tekken movie. Beating Kazuya means playing patiently and waiting for him to make the first mistake. Eventually, he'll leave himself unguarded, giving you an opportunity to push some damage through. But if you manage to defeat Kazuya, you'll face Tekken 2's true final boss, Devil. After laying dormant within Kazuya's body and influencing his actions over the course of several years, Devil finally emerges and takes over Kazuya's body completely. This guy is an absolute bastard. He uses the same powerful karate style that the Mishima family uses, and he also gets all kinds of freaky deaky supernatural powers to boot. If he hits you with that forehead laser, you'll be stunned for a long time, which usually leads to even more damage done. Devil can be extremely awkward to fight against since he has moves that cover a huge portion of the screen, and moves that make him float in midair, both things that no other character in the game can actually do. Beating this guy will take a lot more than a well-tuned fiddle or an act of self-sacrifice or even abstinence. You'll have to know exactly when to switch from offense to defense in order to claim your victory. With a little luck and maybe some holy water, you'll exorcise this demon. Now, if you are worried that the short, weird ending cutscenes from the original Tekken wouldn't make a return here, then rest easy. They're back. They're confusing, only a handful of them are even probably canon, and they might just make you question the general direction of your life. You guys ready? Here we go! Jack 2 is chilling with a little girl on a beautiful island when suddenly a space laser instantly kills him. Hasta la vista, baby. Nina visits her father's grave and has an awkward encounter with her estranged sister Anna. Ooh, scandalous. Yoshimitsu attacks a helicopter, then becomes a helicopter to save his friend, Dr. Buskanovich. Michelle admires Mother Nature for a bit before chucking her medallion into a lake. Paul is dealing with his angst and riding his chopper when a rock slide stops him in his tracks. Thankfully, he gets the power of American punches to clear the way. Lei fires clip after clip into a target at a firing range, spelling out the end. Thanks for the reminder, buddy. June takes a school bus to the wilderness where she uses her Dr. Dolittle abilities to command the animals to hang out with her. Why she didn't use these potentially devastating abilities to aid her in the tournament? No one knows. Law once again takes great pleasure in seeing others fail at doing what comes naturally to him. Paul, go do some yoga, dude. Get some yoga in there. King creepily spies on some FMV orphans and leaves a few presents for them in the snow. But the kids catch up to him and worship him for the Jaguar Santa God that he is. And lastly, Heihachi finally gets to enact revenge on his son by throwing Kazuya's unconscious body into an active volcano. Now, I know what you're all gonna say. Why would he try tossing his son off of another high place again? It obviously didn't work the last time. But this is a volcano! There's absolutely no way Kazuya is coming back from that one. He totally comes back from that one. If you're a fan of the series, then you'll know that Tekken always has a ton of unlockable characters beyond the initial roster, and Tekken 2 is no exception. There are a total of 15 characters that you can unlock, bringing the final character count up to 25. The Tekken mob rolls deep, y'all. But unlike the original Tekken, these bonus fighters aren't just mere clones of their starting roster counterparts. For the most part, they're fully fleshed out fighters who offer even more distinct ways to enjoy the game. Each time you beat arcade mode with one of the starting characters, you'll unlock a different sub-boss for free use in the rest of the game. If you beat the game as Jack 2, you'll unlock Prototype Jack, an older, clunkier Jack android who's envious of the new, sleeker model. Completing arcade mode with Nina unlocks her sister and bitter rival Anna. Yoshimitsu will unlock Kunamitsu, a female ninja whose mission is to steal Yoshimitsu's prized katana. Beating the game with Michelle will get you Ganryu, the once great sumo wrestler and current bodyguard of Kazuya, who's crushing real hard on Michelle. Watch out, girl. Paul unlocks Kuma, Heihachi's trusty sentient bear pal. If you beat the game with Lei, you'll get Bruce, a dangerous Muay Thai fighter who also happens to be Kazuya's top flunky. Jun will unlock Wang, an old friend of the Mishima family who dreams of seeing the Mishima Zaibatsu return to its glory days, before it all got kidnappy and murdery. Law unlocks Bayek. Come on, look at it. His name looks like it's spelled wrong. He's a Taekwondo master who was blackmailed into bopping everyone at Law's martial arts school. Beating the game with King gets you Armor King, his good friend and Jaguar God counterpart. And completing arcade mode with Heihachi will unlock Lee, Kazuya's adopted brother who has to play second banana now that his brother's the big man on campus. Don't be sad, little dude. Like it says in your family crest, when life gives you lemons, throw them off a cliff. But we're not done there. There are certain characters you can only unlock by fulfilling more specific criteria. First of all, you can gain access to Kazuya as a playable character by first unlocking every other sub-boss, and then beating the game using any of those sub-bosses. He may be the villain this time around, but Kazuya still got the moves. If you then beat the game as Kazuya, you will unlock Devil for play. Not only that, but you'll also unlock Angel, the manifestation of the good within Kazuya at the same time. Angel and Devil have an identical moveset, but only one of them will actually tell you to be responsible, put the cheeseburger down, and have some celery, which is why I always pick Devil. These Baconators are just too damn good! And lastly, you can unlock a couple of genetically engineered martial arts animals named Roger and Alex. This isn't a joke. You can actually play as a boxing kangaroo, which is a trope that many of us are familiar with, and a freaking boxing velociraptor. Just let me one more time. Boxing velociraptor. That's badass. Why would I ever play as anyone else? All you have to do to unlock them both is to make sure you win your third fight in arcade mode while having 5% or less health. Boom, you are now ready to take revenge on everyone who says they didn't like Jurassic World. And all of these sub-boss characters do have their own endings as well. It may not be much, but there's even a completion bonus. If you manage to unlock every single character in the game, you'll earn yourself a new title screen that features Kazuya's piercing gaze. It's as if he's saying, "Congratulations, you've mastered Tekken 2. Tekken 2 is kind of like two different games depending on how you tend to play it. If you spend most of your time playing against the computer, you won't have much difficulty rolling right over your CPU opponents, even on the hardest settings. You can easily cheese most of the characters by crouching right click over and over again. On the hardest difficulty, you might hit a roadblock here and there, but nothing can stand in the way of your crouching right kick. However, if you're more interested in playing against your friends in Tekken 2, then things can get a lot rougher. Humans are far more capable of growing, improving, and implementing dastardly techniques than a computer, and the game's various two-player modes can keep you busy for several hours. Completing this game, thankfully, doesn't require much effort since it predates achievements. There's no reward for beating the game on the hardest setting either, so doing it is just for bragging rights. All in all, in my playthrough of Tekken 2, there were 18 continues used, 25 arcade mode completions, 16 hours of total playtime, 9 of which were spent in the arcade mode, countless juggle combos, and 1 trademarked file for the Genetically Engineered Animal Boxing League, or the Zeebo, a subsidiary of That One Video Entertainment. Zeebo, unleash your wild side. Just like the first game, there's plenty of fun to be had with Tekken 2, no matter what mode you're playing. Constantly challenging yourself to get better and better is where the real replayability and joy of Tekken 2 lies. After looking both at Tekken 1 and Tekken 2 up at this point, I kind of think that Tekken 2 is much better. Story-wise, everything makes a little bit much more sense. The animations are definitely more clean and more precise. Polygon-wise, it looks a little bit more on the same side. However, mechanically, the game is a bit more refined. I would argue that Tekken 2 is way better than Tekken 1. But honestly, it's kind of like arguing semantics. It doesn't really matter. The games are fun, the games are full fleshed out, and I mean, there's a lot more games between Tekken 2 and Tekken 7 to cover, so we'll get to them when we get to them. So with that in mind, guys, I give this game my completionist rating of Finish It.
Finish it.
That's all the time we have for today, guys, so please, as always, let us know what you thought about today's episode somewhere on the internet. Question of the day, who from Tekken is your favorite character and why? Mine has to be Law, Eddie Gordo, and Jack, or Kuma. Really anyone that's big, I like those guys. Now if you excuse me, let's look at the weirdest, most bizarre ending from Tekken 2. Uncut. I did not make this up. This is in the game. It's rough.